So sitting here with you in your office today, obviously a lot of people, maybe in their lifetime, might deal with the issues of back pain. How important is it for prevention?
Well, that's a good point that you bring up. About 90% of people in their lifetime will experience back pain and may require a hospital visit, hospitalization, or just a doctor's visit. Low back pain is the #2 cause of doctor visits in the United States, just behind the common cold. So it's very prevalent. And that statistic's been true for the last 15 or 20 years. So it's very important to get ahead of the game. 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
What are some ways people can start now to prevent problems down the line with their back?
Okay, the best ways to prevent spine injuries is technique. It's ergonomics at the workplace. It's not slouching over. It's very easy. We all do that. We all do that. Every time I go into the patient room, they're slouching over, and I start talking about their posture, and they're like a Boy Scout, and they're sitting straight up again like they're in the classroom. But it's hard to do that. You've got to train yourself on a conscious level to sit properly at your desk. And you've got to rearrange your equipment, your computer, to fit your needs, not you to fit where they're positioned, arbitrarily.
We're all like this all the time, aren't we? We're all looking down at our phones.
That's true too, yeah. Cell phones, it's real bad. So if you have a laptop or you work on a computer station or you have a cell phone, make sure you maintain technique. A lot of times, young children may be trying to model, and they're taught to put your chin up and chest out and put a book on your head, was the old training. You got to maintain that. It feels funny at first. It feels awkward. You think everybody looks at you funny, and they might. But if you maintain the posture, that's important for your spine. So #1 be ergonomics, especially in the workplace or recreationally. The next thing would be if you work out, and a lot of young Americans do now, is to maintain the proper core stabilization techniques. So if you go through a regimented class and you have a progression of like laying on the floor, lifting one leg up, now an arm and a leg, opposite arm and leg, getting on the activity balls and working on your core and doing sport-specific core stabilization, then that will help you consciously recognize how to stabilize your core, engage those muscles, so it'll function on a subconscious level when you're doing something silly like picking up a pencil or something that fell on the floor. And some people sprain their backs that way or injure a disc and might need even surgery. So if you can just subconsciously train yourself to maintain your core, that's the best prevention.
Is this something that people in their 20s should start thinking about, that, trying to prevent later problems or back problems?
Absolutely. Anybody watching this segment should start thinking about this. Anybody that works out, anybody that uses their back on a daily basis, which everybody should start thinking about. It's never too early to start. The thing about prevention is you don't know, it's like insurance, you don't know when you're going to need it. So if you don't prevent and don't prevent and don't prevent, and then you need it, you should have started earlier. And so a lot of times you do prevention for a long time and never need it, and that's great. Just keep preventing. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. So really, someone in their 20s could literally be working now to try to prevent back problems later in life.
That's the best way, yeah. So in the 20s, actually arthritis starts about in your 20s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for everybody. Now, it doesn't show up maybe until the 20s or maybe 30s or 40s. Some people are lucky enough that it doesn't show up 50s or 60s. But it does start as a condition. Now, it may not be symptomatic, but it's creeping in there because it's wear and tear of your joints. So just like knees and hips wear out, the spine has a lot of joints. There's like 5 levels in the lumbar spine, the low back, 5 discs, and each one has 2 facets on each side. All of these are joints that move around, and you have 2 sacroiliac joints. So it's a lot of wear and tear that can happen. So the best way is to prevent those from wearing down at a faster rate. They may show up on an x-ray in your 20s or 30s, but it may not be a problem until your 40s or 50s. And if you're doing preventive, it may not be a problem until your 60s or 70s or never.
It's interesting when you say that, we need to start thinking as we're younger to prevent problems later, but so much right now people are focused on CrossFit and SoulCycle and working out. There's so many social media fitness stars where they're doing YouTube videos. We're obsessed with perfection and working out, but are we doing too much damage to our bodies and causing problems for the future?
So I like the idea of obsessing about working out, but the best thing again is technique oriented. So if you're doing a lot of sets but they're poor form, you're going to get injured. If you're doing a lot of weight and it's poor form, you're going to get injured. So if you obsess about things in your mind and think about how to do things correctly and then exercise in moderation, I think if you go to a trend and you try to cut all the protein out of your diet and you're just going to drink like pineapple juice or cayenne peppers for 3 months straight and you're going to let any nutrition in your body, then also you're going to work out 4 times a day and you're going to be dehydrated.
In this day and age with technology and social media, people, celebrities, athletes, they're documenting every aspect of their lives and what they're doing to stay fit. We all want to look like them. We all want to be them. But are we rushing it, and are we ultimately, causing problems for ourselves later on?
I think social media is great because it raises awareness, and it's always in patients' or people's minds to get in better shape. So that's good. And the next step is to think about working out and getting to the gym and getting a gym membership, but actually going, not just for the first 3 weeks or 3 months of the year. It's a lifelong process. Just put it in chunks. Think about, what am I going to do for my goals for this month or this say 3 months or a year, and try to stick to them. And if you fall off the wagon, go back and work out again. I would advise, don't binge workout followed by binge couch potato. There's a lot of good studies that show that just slow, steady increments of training and diet is better than up and down, like this roller coaster of diet where you're losing a lot of weight and gaining a lot of weight. Not only cardiovascularly, where it's a lot of stress on your heart to weigh a lot and then shrink down and then weigh a lot. It's safer just to weigh a lot, but it's better to not weigh a lot, and also better in your joints to keep maintain good fitness.
Yeah, because it's the joints, and you don't want to do anything too quickly without any kind of supervision.
Yeah, supervision is the best because it's going to teach you the best techniques. Now, I've worked out for years, and I've noticed that when my technique starts faltering is when I try to lift too much or too fast or too much too fast. Or I just had to, maybe I haven't worked out in a certain kind of way, like some kind of bench press, and I've just let my technique slip gradually over time. If I had a workout partner, we could watch each other, make sure we're breathing correctly, not going with the weight too much, have a spotter there so you don't put your body in a compromised position to lift weights. And you always have somebody to kind of supervise and train you. Anybody that's going to be good at something has a trainer. Okay, all the spine surgeons I know had a trainer to get good. All the professional athletes I know have trainers and had trainers to get good. So anytime you want to be good at something, get a trainer, get a physical therapist, get somebody to spot check you every year or so.
Make sure you're doing it right. So, there have been a handful of celebrities who have gone under the knife. You've got George Clooney. He was injured on a set, and he went through years of pain. And Charlize Theron, she was injured on set. Jackie Chan, Freddie Prinze just had spinal surgery. There's athletes, there's politicians, like so many people. Are celebrities just like us, or is that is that just a small sampling?
I think they're just like us in that their bodies can be injured. Their spines are made the same way ours are, and if they are jeopardized by some kind of stunt that they try, it kind of might be a fluke accident. I was lucky enough to work with Bob Watkins in Los Angeles, and he sees a lot of celebrities and professional, Olympic, and collegiate athletes. When I was there in 2005, Charlize Theron injured herself filming Aeon Flux in Germany. She flew all the way back out to see Bob because he has such a great reputation for decades. I think he's the best in the country, if not the world, in my opinion. And I had the opportunity to see her. She had broken her neck. She endured pain for several years and ultimately underwent surgery in 2013. So freaky things happen, People have injuries all the time. I used to work at the trauma center here, and you see all kinds of injuries. So I don't think stars are any different than the rest of us folks as far as getting injuries. So prevention is the best, but still fluky accidents can happen.
Is it something too that you need to know what your limits are? These celebrities are perhaps trying stunts on film sets. That's not something that we're going to do in our everyday lives, but is it something about really understanding what our limits are?
Well, a lot of times people, even in their everyday lives, push their limits anyway. So, the celebrities that are doing their own stunts will push their limits, but humans do that all the time. And sometimes it's under the influence of alcohol during football games or just clowning around. So, yeah, you can always put yourself in a vulnerable position if you're not following the best ergonomics and postures and techniques.
And just think everyone wants to have that YouTube video go viral, so they're willing to maybe do things that are a little crazy just to get a little attention out there.
Well, there's a lot of television shows geared towards people injuring themselves. I personally like watching a lot of these videos, and they submit them, and they always send in the warning, don't try this at home and don't do it unsupervised, but of course they do. So yeah, there's a lot of that's been going on since the beginning of creation, really. People have gone out and tried to do stunts to gain popularity or gain attention from other people. That will always continue to happen. Just have to try to be safe as possible.
Are a lot of your patients trying crazy things or not necessarily?
A lot of patients try crazy things, but they usually don't come in and admit them necessarily. So a lot of times when I see patients, they've been seriously injured in automobile accidents, falls from maybe a ladder at work, or maybe just some kind of like recreational activities. There's a lot of weekend warriors out there that haven't played basketball in months, and they just want to go for it one Friday and be an all-star, and they start injuring themselves.
Yeah. Olympic athletes with the Olympics this summer, are they just as susceptible as all of us as far as getting any kind of back injury or spinal injury?
Well, the interesting thing is the Olympic athletes have been working as an athlete since probably the time they were 3 years old, and they've gone through this excruciating selection process. So these are the best of the best of the best every year. People that have been injured up to that point have fallen off and gone on life some other way. Their spines are still made like ours, and you don't know at any particular disc level which is the vulnerable one, which is going to go early, which one was made just a little bit differently, which one doesn't have the fibers that's going to protect them. So yeah, they're vulnerable. That's why a lot of money is invested on their trainers and supervisors and the people that watch over the Olympics. Every day they train to make sure they're eating correctly, make sure they're training not too much, not too little, having the right diet. So they have a significant advantage because, of course, genetically they're elite, and then they also have a bunch of trainers really fine-tuning how good the professional athlete that they can be.
I mentioned several celebrities like George Clooney and Charlize Theron and people like Jennifer Grey, and they all ended up having to have surgery for the issues that they were dealing with. But is surgery really the only way to go?
Well, it's just a small sampling of, a large pool of celebrities. So having a spine injury as a celebrity is not as common as having a spine injury as a layperson. And going under the knife is also not common, thankfully, for both the lay people and the celebrities alike. So that's just a small amount. They gain a lot of attention, and people remember these things for years. But it's only a few people that have actually had a spine injury that requires spine surgery. Celebrities usually prefer plastic surgery over spine surgery.
That's the surgery they're going for. But also, too, you're someone who is very much a proponent for let's try everything we can before surgery. Right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Surgery is a last resort. You can't undo surgery. So once you've made that commitment, you've crossed the threshold. Okay, you crossed the Rubicon. You can't go back. So we always try physical therapy, chiropractic care, epidural injections. Anything that somebody wants to try that's likely to get them better. And those are the mainstays. Hands-on treatments, sometimes injections, even acupuncture. Posture, changing your form, your ergonomics, your work environment, modifying your lifestyle, changing your activities. All those things are tried before surgery. Surgery is the last resort. I probably operate on less than 3% of the patients that walk in this door.
You've dealt with a number of high-profile patients yourself. Who have you worked with? And mostly athletes, or where are those folks coming from?
Well, I worked with Bob Watkins, fortunately, in Los Angeles. Very humbling experience to be able to work with a man of that caliber. He's a great surgeon and taught me a lot. We saw a lot of Olympic professional athletes and collegiate athletes. We worked with USC when they were winning their championships. He's also the doctor who's provided care for most of the NBA or NFL. And since I've been in Las Vegas, we don't have professional athletic teams, although we just got a hockey team, and hopefully we'll get the Raiders here. I've only worked with UNLV, and I've operated on a few of those football players. And then there's some other athletes, I call them athletes, they work in like Cirque du Soleil shows, and they have these perfect bodies, but they still get injuries, and sometimes we have to perform surgery.
Is it something, too, where would you say mostly it's the pain is coming from a psychological thing, or is it physical?
No, I'd say mostly it's physical.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say psychological dispositions can contribute to somebody's perception of pain, but most of the time that's not the issue. Most of the time somebody has a physical injury. Even people that have a psychological propensity towards anxiety or depression can magnify their symptoms. Most people don't have that to a point where it does magnify their symptoms, so I don't think it's psychological. Although some of the publicized celebrities had some psychological components because of long-term chronic pain that wasn't getting better. So they kind of get addicted to medications, they build a tolerance for it, and it gets depressing. I don't know if you ever had a pain so bad that's inescapable. You tried physical therapy, you tried chiropractic, you tried injections, you're apprehensive about surgery, and you have to deal with the pain, and now you're kind of addicted to these medications, and you cannot get out of pain. It's kind of a learned helplessness, and that's why they get depressed, and psychological issues come into play.
Well, I think the takeaway today is definitely the earlier you start preventing potential back problems, the better, right?
Yep, earlier is better, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Sounds great. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Cash.
you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.